Welcome back. I'm talking to Sanjay Kapoor, the CEO of Bharti Airtel, India and South Asia. Sanjay, we were talking about several other things with regard to the industry and your company. One of the key things is that you pioneered the minutes factory model, something that you now see in international literature about the telecom sector. But I'm curious to know what next after the minutes factory. You mentioned the data factory. Tell us what your plans are.
So, yes, you're right, Siddharth, that Bharti Airtel really is known for its innovation around the minutes factory, and going forward these businesses are going to move from pure voice play to becoming data play before they become lifestyle enablement play. And very clearly the mindset in the organization right now is working towards saying, how do we transform this minutes factory to becoming a data factory? Because you're not dealing with minutes anymore, you're probably dealing with megabits or kilobits or gigabits, and that's what we have to attune the whole organization to. So the entire social engine in the organization, whether it's people, whether it's culture, whether it's measurements, whether it's reward recognitions, whether it's delivery, are all being reconstituted to deliver data in the marketplace. The good news is India is just about 0.7, 0.8% penetrated on data, and that leaves a great uncovered ground. It's like starting the whole voice story as we did 15 years back, probably again in data.
Okay, so when it is data, and we know that a whole lot of high-end subscribers at least, and maybe a lot of your prepaid subscribers also, who knows, depending on the service, will be willing to adopt data services. The key question is pricing. In the past, the general impression that we have got from people who have won 3G spectrum, people like you, is that this pricing cannot be cutthroat. You cannot have a situation where it is undersold. What are your plans there?
I think the auction process in this country did end up putting a lid to throwaway pricing on 3G and data. Also the very fact that we've just got about one carrier of spectrum available, you cannot have unlimited bucket plans flowing all over. So what America went through, or what some European countries went through, and with much higher spectrum, where they gave large buckets but at very hefty prices, I think that sort of model to replicate in India will be a challenge. However, I'm not ruling out the fact that there will not be small bucket plans available with a lid that will be there. So you might have a fixed plan, but it will have a cap on fair usage. But what really will take data services down to the least common denominator is the sachet strategy, where the amount of data that is required by you to achieve what you want to achieve will be available in small packs. So if your question to me is, will a guy who wants to spend 25 rupees only a month have access to data? My answer is yes. The only thing is the amount of data that he'll be able to download and consume will be restricted. But India, the story has to be massified. The good news is that with our app store that we launched even on 2G, 2.5G, we are seeing people from much lesser towns now coming and logging onto the internet. Now that's a phenomena that's catching up in the country, and if that is true, 3G is just going to accentuate the entire experience and take it forward.
Okay, now I'm going to try and throw a couple of numbers at you. At the higher end, what is it that a general user pays for data? If you look at various kinds of packages, including a BlackBerry connection, for instance, you really end up paying 1500 for an unlimited, all you can sort of eat buffet on the current networks. Is that a benchmark that we can consider for 3G also?
It's very difficult to throw a number and accept it at this stage. There are also data users on the network who use data even when they travel overseas, and their consumptions runs into tens of thousands, and they can't live without data. We are in the midst of constructing our plans for the data offerings on 3G. You will hear more about them. I do not want to commit to a number because there will be creativity in how we approach the customers and serve different segments in the marketplace.
Okay, and the telecom equipment import restrictions, the new license template, is that an impediment for the industry, if not for you?
It was. I must say, during the first quarter of this fiscal year, all operators faced a lot of constraint in getting equipment, and that did not help on the network quality for anybody, I'm sure. But I think going forward, government is reconsidering the proposal that they had earlier extended, and we are getting permissions as we progress.
Okay, let's come back to the TRAI recommendations. While one part really dealt with this spectrum pricing, excess spectrum, a very sensitive subject, there was also a lot that was said on M&A. In fact, if you were to summarize that aspect of the recommendations, it was a very liberal policy framework that was proposed for enhancing consolidation in the industry. We have now heard the Department of Telecom say that they are considering requests from certain new operators for an exit option or an exit clause being made available to them, and possibly the government may consider this. So while all of that happens, what does Bharti Airtel have to say about the expected wave of consolidation? Will you be participants in this consolidation if it were to happen?
So let's get back to the policy first. Very clearly, there is a room to look at an exit policy. However, that exit policy needs to be a lot more inclusive. You must understand that if there are two weak players in the market where the economics is not making sense to both, to allow them to merge together is not going to solve the problem. It's like two wrongs don't make a right. That's not going to work either. So I think the government, first and foremost, when the Telecom Commission looks at this, they must allow the larger profitable operators to participate in the consolidation process so that there's a meaningful consolidation that happens very clearly. Second, why would you like to consolidate if you're a large player? The revenues that accrue to many of the small players are insignificant. It doesn't matter. And
neither do they have the subscribers.
Absolutely. And it's the duality and multiplicity of SIM where the customer is anyway sitting with the big player. So what is the big incentive? It's only the spectrum. And if that's true, then the government must allow the spectrum to be retained by the person who's acquired. Of course, they'll put in a charge. I'm not saying give it free of cost, but they must allow that to be retained. Otherwise, the entire purpose of a merger with the larger player is completely lost.
If this were to happen, really, what is the kind of valuation that we will be looking at? And I ask you this not from your plan perspective, but because some of these new operators want a refund on the license fee that they paid. Would you as an industry veteran support such a proposal?
Well, it's difficult to put a price. The market determines the price of the spectrum. If there was an exit available where some of them could sell out at a higher price, they would have done it. So I would leave it to the Telecom Commission and the government to decide what is the right price.
Sanjay, changing topics, one of the other sort of drivers of growth that all of us are expecting is mobile commerce, mobile banking. What have you heard from the banking regulator with regard to the guidelines that were supposed to come? Is there an update on that? And where are you yourself in terms of exploiting this new opportunity?
I must say, definitely life has changed a bit over the last year and a half. I now attend probably more M-commerce conferences than telecom conferences. I get invited in more of these places to speak.
And probably media conferences also, considering that you are the fourth largest media company in the country.
Absolutely. So the life has changed. I think we are getting involved in the discussions on financial inclusion, on semi-closed wallet, governments even talking about money transfers. So I think everything's on the table. There is a committee that has been constituted by the Prime Minister, and there are industry representatives who are trying to drive that agenda. Some steps have been taken. I think right now on the financial inclusion, banks are talking to telecom operators by and large to say how can telecom infrastructure be leveraged to further accentuate this cause. Second, government has also, the financial regulators have agreed to accord a license for semi-closed wallet to the telecom companies if they want to pursue that.
Have you applied for it?
Yes. Okay. In fact, we are the first telco to have got it.
Okay. When was that?
About a month and a half back.
Oh, wonderful. So where is the rollout?
Well, we are in the midst of putting our plans together.
So this is a license for a semi-closed. Can you expand?
So semi-closed wallet is where you can use a wallet to pay for other merchandise in the marketplace, other than paying for your recharge and recharge top-ups and all that stuff.
So is the pilot on somewhere?
Yeah, we are in the midst of putting our plans together.
And this is a national license that you got?
Yeah, it's I mean, government doesn't restrict it based on geographic areas.
That's wonderful news, Sanjay, and I'll now come to the last question of this interview. I'm asking you to look through a sort of glass and tell us, where does this company where will it be a couple of years down the line?
I think from a geographic perspective, very clearly we've taken a step towards the developing nations across the globe, moving from India to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and then to Africa is a clear pronouncement of our intentions. But on the other side, we are also very cognizant that eventually telecom companies have the potential to migrate from being just telecom companies to becoming lifestyle enablement companies, and data will be a very strong conduit to make that happen. I think we have our eyes on that, and we would like to go through that journey over time and make that happen, because we believe that we can add a lot of productivity and fizz to the lives of the customers on a 360-degree basis. So whether it's his entertainment, or it's his health, or it's his commerce requirements, or his other requirements on a daily basis, I think we have a possibility of participating in all those facets of his life.
Thank you very much, Sanjay, for talking to us today. That was Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, the CEO of Bharti Airtel India and South Asia, talking about the company and the industry in particular. Thank you for watching.